Hey guys, welcome back. We are doing lesson 21 for Wit and Wisdom. Today, our focus question is, how does Irene respond to the full force of the wind? And our content framing question is, what do I notice and wonder about brave Irene? So in this lesson, we are introduced to a new text, Brave Irene by William Steig. You're going to notice and wonder about the text, which tells the story of a determined girl who sets off on a mission during a blizzard. Do you know what a blizzard is? It's a bad snowstorm. We are also going to become word detectives at the end of our lesson. We're going to use clues within the word itself to figure out the meaning of the unknown word. So I am going to turn it over to our video to get started.
Hello, first graders, and welcome back to Wit, Wisdom, and Sync. My name is Tanisha Spears, and I'm excited to jump into our lesson for today. But before we do, let's make sure you have your materials ready. For this lesson, you will need your copy of the text, Brave Irene, if you have one. You need your Wit, Wisdom, and Sync journal and a pencil. Pause the video now if you need to gather your materials. In previous work, you had a chance to reflect on the knowledge you've built and the skills you've learned. Today, we'll be looking at a new text, and you will make observations and ask questions about the text. But before we get into that text, let's take a moment to review the essential question, or the big question, that you've been building knowledge to answer throughout this module. And that question is, how do people respond to the powerful force of the wind? Remember, you will also answer other questions as you explore each text. And the focusing question for this text is, how does Irene respond to the powerful force of the wind? Now, this question gives you some insight about the new text. This new text is about a character named Irene and her experiences with a powerful wind. And the question that will frame our work for today is, what do I notice and wonder about this text? So while reading this text, Brave Irene by William Steig, you will explore how the character Irene responds to the wind. Okay, friends, let's get into the text. I want you to think about what you notice as I read the text aloud. If you have, you can follow along with me. Listen carefully. Brave Irene. Mrs. Bobbin, the dressmaker, was tired and had a bad headache, but she still managed to sew the last stitches in the gown she was making. "It's the most beautiful dress in the whole world," said her daughter, Irene. "The Duchess will love it." "It is nice," her mother admitted, "but Dumpling, it's for tonight's ball, and I don't have the strength to bring it. I feel sick." "Poor Mama," said Irene. "I can get it there." "No, Cupcake, I can't let you," said Mrs. Bobbin. "Such a huge package, and it's such a long way to the palace. Besides, it's starting to snow." "But I love snow," Irene insisted. She coaxed her mother into bed, covered her with 2 quilts, and added a blanket for her feet. Then she fixed her some tea with lemon and honey and put more wood in the stove. With great care, Irene took a splendid gown down from the dummy and packed it in a big box with plenty of tissue paper. "Dress warmly, Puddin'," her mother called in a weak voice. "And don't forget to button up. It's cold out there and windy." Irene put on her fleece-lined boots, her red hat and muff, her heavy coat, and her mittens. She kissed her mother's hot forehead 6 times, then once again made sure she was tucked in snugly and good. out was the big box, shutting the door firmly behind her. It really was cold outside, very cold. The wind whirled the falling snowflakes about this way, that way, and into Irene's squinting face. She set out on the uphill path to Venice sheep pasture. By the time she got there, snow was up to her ankles and the wind was worse. It hurried her along and made her stumble. Irene resented this. The box was problem enough. Easy does it, she cautioned the wind, leaning back hard against it. By the middle of the pasture, the flakes were falling thicker. Now the wind drove Irene along so rudely she had to hop, skip, and go helter-skeltering over the knobby ground. Cold snow sifted into her boots and chilled her feet. She pushed out her lip and hurried on. This was an important errand. When she reached the road, the wind decided to put on a show. It ripped branches from trees and flung them about, swept up and scattered the fallen snow, got in front of Irene to keep her from moving ahead. Irene turned around and pressed on backwards. Go home, the wind squalled. Irene, go home. I will do no such thing. No such thing, you wicked wind. Go home, the wind you. Go home, it shrieked. Or else, for a short second, Irene wondered if she shouldn't heed the wind's warning. But no, the gown had to get to the Duchess. The wind wrestled her for the package, walloped it, twisted it, shook it, snatched at it. But Irene wouldn't yield. It's my mother's work, she screamed. Then, oh, the box was wrenched from her mittened grasp and sent bubbling along in the snow. Irene went after it. She pounced and took hold, but the ill-tempered wind ripped the box open. The ball gown flounced out and went waltzing through the powdered air with tissue paper attendants. Irene clung to the empty box and watched the beautiful gown disappear. How could anything so terribly wrong be allowed to happen? Tears froze on her lashes. Her dear mother's hard work, all those days of measuring, cutting, pinning, stitching for this? And the poor Duchess, Irene decided to have to trudge on with just the box and explain everything in person. She went shuffling through the snow. Would her mother understand? She wondered that it was the wind's fault, not hers. Would the Duchess be angry? The wind was howling like a wild animal. Suddenly, Irene stepped in a hole and fell over with a twisted ankle. She blamed it on the wind. Keep quiet, she said. You've done enough damage already. You've spoiled everything, everything. The wind swallowed up her words. She sat in the snow in great pain, afraid she wouldn't be able to go on, but she managed to get to her feet and start moving. It hurt. Home, where she and her mother could be warm together, was far behind. It's got to be closer to the palace, she thought, but where any place was in all this snow, she couldn't be sure. She plowed on, dragging furrows with her sore feet. The short winter day was almost done. Am I still going the right way, she wondered. There was no one around to advise her. Whoever else there was in this snow-covered world was far, far away and safe indoors. Even the animals in their burrows. She went plodding on. Soon, it took over. She knew in the dark that the muffled snow was still falling. She could feel it. She was cold and alone in the middle of nowhere. Irene was lost. She had to keep moving. She was hoping she'd come to a house, any house at all, and be taken in. She badly needed to be in someone's arms. The snow was above her knees now. She shoved her way through it, clutching the empty box. She was asking how long a small person could keep this struggle up when she realized it was getting lighter. There was a soft glow coming from somewhere below her. She waited toward this glow and soon was gazing down a long slope at a brightly lit mansion. It had to be the palace. Irene pushed forward with all her strength and swoosh, thwomp. She plunged downward and was buried. She had fallen off a little cliff. Only her hat and the box in her hand stuck out above the snow. Even if she couldn't call for help, no one would hear her. Her body shook, her teeth chattered. Why not freeze to death, she thought, and let all these troubles in? Why not? She was already buried. And never see her mother's face again. Her good mother, who smelled like fresh baked bread. In an explosion of fury, she flung her body out about to free herself and was finally able to climb up on her knees and look around. How to get down to that glittering palace? As soon as she raised the question, she had the answer. She laid the box down and climbed aboard, but it pressed into the snow and stuck. She tried again, and this time, instead of climbing on, she leaped. The box shot forward like a sled. The wind raced after Irene, but couldn't keep up. In a moment, she would be with people again, inside where it was warm. The sled slowed and jerked to a stop on paving stones. The time had come to break the bad news to the Duchess. With the empty box clasped to her chest, Irene strode nervously toward the palace. But then her feet stopped moving and her mouth fell open. She stared. Maybe this was impossible, yet there it was, a little way off and over to the right, hugging the trunk of a tree, the beautiful ball gown. The wind was holding it there. Mama, Irene shouted, Mama, I found it. She managed somehow, despite the wind's meddling, to get the gown off the tree and back in its box. And in another moment, she was at the door of the palace. She knocked twice with the big brass knocker. The door opened and she burst in. She was welcomed by cheering servants and a delirious Duchess. They couldn't believe she had come over the mountain in such a storm by herself. She had to tell the whole story, every detail, and she did. Then she asked to be taken right back to her sick mother, but it was out of the question, they said. The road that ran around the mountain wouldn't be cleared till morning. Don't fret, child, said the Duchess. Your mother is surely sleeping now. We'll get you there first thing tomorrow. Irene was given a good dinner as she sat by the fire, the moisture steaming off her clothes. The Duchess, meanwhile, got into her freshly ironed gown before the guests began arriving in their sleighs. What a wonderful ball it was. The Duchess in her new gown was like a bright star in the sky. Irene, in her ordinary dress, was radiant. She was swept up into dances by handsome aristocrats who kept her feet off the floor to spare her ankle. Her mother would enjoy hearing all about it. Early the next morning, when snow had long since ceased falling, Mrs. Bobbin woke from a good night's sleep feeling much improved. She hurried about and got a fire going in the cold stove. Then she went to look in on Irene. But Irene's bed was empty. She ran to the window and gazed at the white landscape. No one out there. Snow powder fell from the branch of a tree. Where's my child? Mrs. Bobbin cried. She whipped on her coat to go out and find her. When she pulled the door open, a wall of drip met her. But peering over, she could see a horse-drawn sleigh hastening up the path. And seated on the sleigh, between two large footmen, was Irene herself, asleep but smiling. Would you like to hear the rest? Well, there was a bearded doctor in the back of the sleigh, and the Duchess had sent Irene's mother a ginger cake with white icing, some oranges, and a pineapple, and spiced candy of many flavors, along with a note saying how much she cherished her gown and what a brave and loving person Irene was, which of course Mrs. Bobbin knew better than the Duchess. Okay, if you'd like to pause the video to stretch or take a quick break. When you're done, unpause the video. Okay, what did you notice about the text? Think. Share with your learning partner. And if your learning partner is not there, just share aloud. What did you notice about the text?
What did you notice? I noticed that Irene yells at the wind like it's a character. But I also noticed that the illustrations show lots of snow. What did you notice?
Here are a few things I noticed. I noticed Irene yells at the wind like it's a character. And I also noticed that the illustrations show lots of snow blown by the wind, almost like a strong snowstorm. Mm-hmm. Did you notice something similar?
Mm-hmm. We did.
Now, after we make observations about a text, what do we do next? Share with your learning partner.
Don't we ask questions? We wonder, don't we?
I'm sure you shared this. We ask questions, and that's what we're going to do now. Look at the question words on the screen. Let's review them quickly. Why, who, where, when, what, how. What I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to point one of the question words that you don't use that often. Did you point? Great. Now, we're going to try to generate at least one question that includes the word that you pointed to. Watch how I do this. I pointed to the word where. So I would ask the question like this. I wondered, where was the dress the whole time it was lost? Now, you are going to generate a few questions, remembering to use the question word that you pointed in at least one of those questions. When you're done generating your questions, you are going to share your questions with your learning partner or just say the questions aloud. Okay, friends, you have the question words you're going to use? Mm-hmm. Okay, get set. Go generate those questions and share with your learning partner.
All right, so let's think about this. I want to use the word why. I want to use the word why. And my question is, why does Irene's mom let her go out in that bad storm all alone? I wonder why she did that. Do you think maybe it's because Mom knew the dress had to be at the Duchess for the ball? Possibly. Now, if I was that young, my mother wouldn't have let me do that. And I know your mamas and daddies probably wouldn't do it either. But Irene's mom let her do it. That's a good thought. What about the word how? How? How come Irene didn't give up through that storm, even though she was buried? Do you think maybe it's because she knew how much this dress meant to her mom and that's why she kept moving forward? Possibly. Okay. I can't wait to hear what your question is.
Okay, now that you've practiced saying some questions aloud, it's your turn to write down at least one question you have about the text. So, pause the video and write one question in your journal.
All right, my friends, You need to write your question down in your journal that you come up with, at least one question. Okay, remember the words where, who, how, why, what, when. Okay, write that question down and answer it.
All right, awesome first graders. Nice job making observations and asking questions about our text Brave Irene today. Next time we'll continue with the same text, but until then, be kind and do something great because you are capable of greatness.
Okay. Oh, bless me. All right. So that part of the lesson is over. What I want to work on now is determining the meaning of an unknown word. So I'm going to read page 9 to you again. And it's this page here. All right. It says, the wind wrestled her for the package, walloped it, twisted it, shook it, snatched at it. But Irene wouldn't yield. It's my mother's work, she screamed. Then, oh, whoa, the box was wrenched from her mittened grasp, it bumbling along in the snow. Irene went after it. All right, so I want to know about the word wrenched, wrenched. And it looks like this in the book because you don't have the book. It's spelled W-R-E-N-C-H-E-D. Wrenched. Wrenched. Say that word. Wrenched. Great job. All right. Now, we're going to try to look inside the word wrenched for clues about what it means. So when we look in, we try to use things that we know. Do you see any smaller words in there? Maybe wrench. And a wrench we think of as a tool, right? Okay, but this isn't a tool. So what I'd like to do is we're going to look around the word, looking at the illustrations on the page, and we're going to try to determine this word. So it says, then, oh, whoa, the box was wrenched from her mitten grasp. So apparently she was holding the box and it was sent bumbling along in the snow. So wrenched, what do you think means there? That it was taken from her? Yes. Okay. Let's see here. It shows in our illustration that the box is being taken out of her hands, right? Yep. We can also tell by the word wrenched that it has an ending on it, ed, which means it happens in the past, right? And the root word being wrench. Great job. Let's see. So based on what we've found, I think wrenched means that it was taken out of her hands, that it was pulled out with a lot of strength, especially if she had a grasp on it. It had to have a lot of strength to pull it out of her grasp. And that wind was very forceful, wasn't it? Yes. Okay. So let's look here then. If I read the sentence again with the definition in place of that word, it should read, then, oh, whoa, the box was pulled with a lot of force from her mitten grasp and sent bumbling along in the snow. Or I could say, then, oh, whoa, the box was taken from her mitten grasp and sent bumbling along in the snow. They both make sense, don't they? They sure do. Okay. So remember, we can always substitute the meaning back into the sentence to check to see if it does make sense. All right. And our definition supports the picture because it was taken from her hands, wasn't it? It sure was. All right. So what I'd like for you to do with that word wrenched is I want you to write it in your journal, and you can write the definition of being pulled with a lot of force or taken. Let me get that. Pulled with force or taken. Okay. And once you've done that, you can draw a picture to go along with that definition. Okay. All right. So now I would like to go over our fluency homework. So I'm going to go back and share my screen with you. Why did I do that for? Let me go back again, my friend. There we go. Our fluency homework. It is 21A and it's called It Fell in the City by Eve Merriam. Hold on. Okay. It says, it fell in the city, it fell through the night, and the black rooftops all turned white. Red fire hydrants all turned white. Blue police cars all turned white. Green garbage cans all turned white. Gray sidewalks all turned white. Yellow no parking signs all turned white when it fell in the city all through the night. What do you think it's talking about? I bet you know something that's white and it covers everything. I bet you know. All right. So now what we'd like to do for our deep dive, we've got a direct vocabulary assessment today. You do have this, all right? And you know how this works is if it's a true sentence, you color in the yes. And if it's a false sentence, you color in the no. All right. So we've got a example at the top with the word sad. Sad. Let's see here. I'm looking for 1 second here. Oh, here we go. Here's our example for the word sad. Can a piece of cake feel sad? So you color in yes or no. All right. Can a piece of cake feel sad? All right. So let's get started on our vocab assessment. Number 1, the word is feelings. Feelings. Does food have feelings? Yes or no? Does food have feelings? Number 2, float. Do rocks float in the air? Do rocks float in the air? Number 3, powerful. Is the wind powerful? Is the wind powerful? Number 4, generous. Can a person be generous if he shares? Can a person be generous if he shares? Number 5, unlatched. Can you leave the bathtub unlatched? Can you leave the bathtub unlatched? Number 6, Selfish. Is it selfish to take more than you should? Is it selfish to take more than you should? Number 7. Number 7, force. Is a bird a force? Is a bird a force? Number 8, soar. Can a car soar in the air? Can a car soar in the air? Number 9, generous. Generous. Is it generous to not share what you have? Is it generous to not share what you have? Number 10, float. Float. Can a balloon float in the air? Can a balloon float in the air? Number 11, unlatched. Can a gate be unlatched? Can a gate be unlatched? Number 12, feelings. Do you have feelings? Do you have feelings? Number 13, powerful. Powerful. Is an apple powerful? Is an apple powerful? Number 14, selfish. Selfish. Is it selfish to share? Is it selfish to share? Number 15, soar. Soar. Do eagles soar in the sky? Do eagles soar in the sky? Number 16, force. Force. Is the wind a force? Is the wind a force? Okay. All right, my friends, that is the end of our lesson today. I hope you enjoyed our new story, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye, guys.